Good morning. I'm meteorologist Cody Matz. Wanted to give you an update on some of the rain and freezing rain occurring across the Twin Cities metro and parts of Minnesota. Of course, you can see jam cams on the right side of your screen. You can also see radar anytime you want on the bottom right-hand corner of your screen as well. Let's walk you through it. It's just outside of our station in Eden Prairie, southwest side of the Twin Cities metro. Obviously, salt and sand crews are out, despite the fact it's not going to do a lot at the moment just because it's raining so hard. At least here in the Twin Cities, especially south side of town, there is some solid rain happening at the moment. Most of our roadways, though, especially main roads, even the ones that aren't salted, are actually in pretty decent shape. Saying that, this morning is going to be all about the sneaky, slippery spots because temperatures are very close to freezing, and this is what we a lot of times talk about, is that a half a degree makes all the difference. So right now, officially 33 degrees at MSP Airport, but that's rounded. It's actually 32.7. I'm telling you, that 0.7 makes all the difference because for the moment, this is not a huge ice event. This is more of a rain and kind of sneaky, slippery spot with some icy surfaces. Your back deck, if it's been cleared and hasn't been salted, that's going to be real slippery. Your sidewalk, going to be real slippery. Some parts of your driveways, the parking lots, those are going to be the areas that will be the slipperiest. I think that's a word. We'll go with it. Otherwise, this kind of gives you a general gist of where we're expecting the icy conditions. So this is your winter weather advisory. This is where we're going to have the slippery conditions. With this will take us into noon. You get north of the winter weather advisory and north of the metro, it is a little bit of light mist, and then it's mostly freezing fog with quarter-mile visibility or less. That's essentially from St. Cloud to Cambridge and points northward, give or take a little bit. It's kind of the in-between zones that actually have it the worst, so it's essentially from about Paynesville, Stearns County through St. Cloud, kind of the northern edge of our winter weather advisory and southern edge of the dense fog advisory appear to have the most widespread slipperiness because that's where we've seen a few spinouts and a couple of crashes. So keep that in mind. While that is not necessarily the case in the metro, like I mentioned, there will be certainly the sneaky slippery spots. All that will take us into the lunch hour, although admittedly, this is pushing through in reasonably quick pace. And so we may actually lose this by around sunrise. But again, those slippery spots may last into the lunch hour. So here you go. Here's storm vision. You can see, of course, on the bottom right-hand corner of your screen, there's a lot of color on here. It kind of makes you go cross-eyed a little bit. So I'm going to turn that off. Everything that's falling is liquid. Just assume it's going to be liquid. You're not going to see a snowflake. You're not going to hear a sleet pellet. This is entirely liquid because of how much warm air is above our heads. So give you a little background science. You get snowflakes from ice crystals. Ice crystals do not form from raindrops. So once you get the snowflakes to fall through the layer of the atmosphere that is above freezing and you melt that snowflake to a raindrop, it's a raindrop. That's it. It can't go back. So with so much warm air above our heads, that snowflake melts into raindrops and then it has to fall as rain. Now, what makes it freezing rain is that temperatures here at ground level are around or below freezing. And so that gives us that icy glaze in some cases. I'm going to show you more on that and walk you through that here in just a second. So this is basically dialing up a radar. We're switching sources. And so everything on here is liquid. And then it shows us the heavier pockets of that liquid. And there's some solid, almost heavy rain falling here in the Twin Cities. Now, is this July-style heavy rain? No. But is this a solid downpour? Absolutely. And it's really across the 494 corridor, essentially taking us from eastern Carver County, just east of Waconia. So Carver itself, Chan, eastward through Eden Prairie, then right along 494, up through 394, into Minneapolis and St. Paul, and then in towards Woodbury and kind of the northern edges of Dakota County. I've had about 1/3 of an inch of rain in my house in Burnsville, and that was about a half hour ago. So this is some solid moisture in here. Here's the good news, some more science for you. One of the reasons why temperatures have actually popped a little bit above freezing because the melting process is a warming mechanism in the atmosphere. This is why there's so many components to freezing rain events, because in order for something to freeze, you're changing the state of that of liquid. You're changing the state of liquid. So you obviously have the evaporation, then so you basically go from a liquid, or you can go from a solid to a liquid and then a liquid to a gas. That change of state actually is an exchange of energy. So when you freeze something, you're actually pulling energy out of one thing and pushing it to another. So it's the exact opposite, obviously, if you're melting something. So if you're trying to actively freeze the surface, it's actually a warming mechanism because you're taking energy out of that thing that's freezing and you're pushing it into the atmosphere. That actually pops temperatures. You don't feel it with your skin. We're not that sensitive to temperature change. But if you have a 31 degrees and it's actively raining, it's actually increasing the temperature if you don't essentially have an air conditioning unit, aka some sort of a breeze that's pulling in colder air, because then suddenly your temperature is going to pop to that freeze mark and then a little bit above freezing because you're constantly pushing energy into the atmosphere, which actually prevents even more freezing. So the harder it rains, the more cold air, the more air conditioning you need to actually make that freeze, and therefore it doesn't really freeze. So in this case, in this particular instance, this doesn't work for every case, every storm is different, it's actually kind of good that it's raining so heavily because it prevents freezing. It's super counterintuitive. There's a lot of science in there. I had to take 4 years of college to even understand that, and I'm not sure I still do. But you get the general idea here. So actually heavy rain preventing a lot of ice from forming. It is also melting some of our snow. So we are going to refreeze eventually, especially as we head through this evening and tonight. So there will be an additional slippery component once we start to refreeze. But you get the general idea. So the heaviest moisture easily across the Twin Cities metro. Last couple of hours, it's rolling straight east. So this is a couple hours plus to go. But the good news here is most of this probably done by the heart of our morning commute, 6:30, 7:30, somewhere in there, as that all will eventually kick eastward. So we flip back over to our mixed radar. Don't go cross-eyed. Back edge and cross portions of central Minnesota, and it's really kind of the lighter. We talked about the heavier rain actually prevents freezing. Well, it's the lighter rain, the mist, a little bit of drizzle, and maybe 1 or 2/100ths of an inch, especially on the northwestern edge of the metro and parts of central Minnesota. That's where we actually have the most slippery conditions and quite likely some of the spinouts that we've seen so far on the right side of your screen, although that one actually getting cleared up. So I talked about precipitation types. Here you go. And here's one of the reasons why we have freezing rain versus sleet or snow. So if you have warmer air, aka above that 32 degree mark, so notice your column here. If your whole column is above 32, you get rain. If your whole column is above or is less than 32, you get snow. It's that in-between zone that gets a little complex. Well, you get this essentially as warm air moves in, it's lighter. It's basically, it comes up and over colder air. It's less dense. And so therefore, it doesn't move into an area like cold air does. We often talk about a cold front, it kind of bulldozes along the ground. Warm air is the exact opposite. And a lot of times it will actually move in overhead first, and then eventually it makes it to the ground. Well, it's that in-between zone where you have this layer up above us that's above 32 that melts that snowflake into raindrops. And like I mentioned, once you get to raindrops, there's no going back to snow. So that falls as this freezing rain component with our surface temperatures at or below freezing. So that makes surface temperatures very, very important. And that's one of the reasons why I'm going to show you these. So here you go. Where it's raining the heaviest, generally speaking, we are just above freezing. That 32 in St. Louis Park is probably 32.4, but that 0.4, because we round here, so we round up and down, that 0.4 makes all the difference in the world. Will there still be slippery spots? Absolutely. Is it widespread ice? No. And that is generally the case. Now you get a little farther to the north and west, Rogers at 31. That's where there will be certainly some freezing rain and freezing drizzle, although admittedly the moisture is lighter. Same story across the northeast metro, Forest Lake and White Bear at 31. But most of the rest of the metro just above freezing. We zoom out. There you go. These were the areas I was talking about that will probably have the most issues, at least over the next couple of hours, take us into early morning hours, so 5 and 6 o'clock hours. St. Cloud, Princeton, North Branch, all at 29. 31 in Osceola, Wisconsin. We have seen some lighter precipitation, lighter rain, aka freezing rain in the Northfield area, also right about or just below freezing. So keep that in mind. Then we zoom back out. All of this area will be dry, although some freezing fog as it kind of freezes to surfaces across northern Minnesota, and have had some freezing rain across portions of the south and west as well. Will be a fog concern today as well. There's your dense fog advisories for northern sections of the state. You can see current visibilities as of 3 a.m. Generally, it's light fog, although it may become more dense as we work through the morning hours and even by the late morning. So one more time, there you go. There's your winter weather advisory zone. Like I mentioned, it's generally just north of the metro that will probably have the most slippery surfaces taking us through the next couple of hours. But keep in mind here, even in the Twin Cities, especially the side surfaces. So maybe not main roads, maybe not even side streets, but it's your sidewalk, it's your back deck, it's your driveway, it's your parking lots that are really going to have some slipperiness to them. Despite all of everything that I've talked about, it's a counterbalance either way. So here's that day planner. Rain will fade essentially by sunrise here, and then it's just sneaky slippery spots into the lunch hour. Winter weather advisory for the moment continues into the lunch hour. Temperatures will be around or just above freezing today, which should hold off a lot of our slipperiness and kind of melt things this afternoon. But there will be a refreeze component as we head through the overnight hours tonight, and more fog likely pretty much area wide as we get into late tonight and into your Wednesday morning. That's essentially it for our update. We're going to talk more coming up at 3:30. The Fox 9 Morning News will start early this morning because of this storm coming up at 4 a.m. We will see you here in about 20 more minutes.